We're right on the edge of it. Green tow, I'm not comfortable. It's too turbulent here. It's too much of a risk of a rope break. Let's turn right.
Welcome back, pilots. We're looking at the end of a rather unremarkable flight on a completely blue day out of Truckee, California.
Carson City, traffic letter 7, left 45 for 27, Carson.
SkySight said that there would be blue thermals to 16,000 feet on the pine nuts, and I was only able to get to 14,000 feet, and so that's why I'm landing here at Carson City Airport. My goal on this landing is to make it to the taxiway so that I don't have to push the glider too far. And as I get into ground effect here, I become afraid that I'm not going to make it, so I close the spoilers. And of course, whenever you touch down with your spoilers closed, you're guaranteed to bounce, like this. Nevertheless, I make it to the taxiway and have a short push to get off the runway. Making it back to Truckee from the south or east can be tricky because you have to have enough altitude to get over the lake and the mountain ranges around Truckee. We Truckee pilots like to joke that Carson City is Truckee's auxiliary runway, because generally if you can't make it back to Truckee, this is where you're going to land.
Carson City, traffic letter 7 will be on the runway for about 5 minutes.
And you can get a relatively quick aero retrieve from Truckee. Carson City is a vast airport, and it's usually completely deserted. I called Truckee for an aero retrieve before I landed, so now I'm just waiting. Here's a look at the terrain that we have to get over to get from Carson City to Truckee. We're going to have to climb to about 11,000 feet, and this is a hot, high-density altitude day.
Let me know when you're ready to go.
Good to go.
Alright, I'll take off. Carson traffic 7516 Zulu, flight of 2, taking off runway 27, left climbing turn over the field.
Fortunately, we've got enough headwind on this takeoff that I can level the wings before we even start moving. I made a mistake here by failing to discuss the flight plan with the tow pilot. I guess I just assumed that it would be like all the other retrieves I've gotten from Carson City. But the tow pilot was concerned about the high density altitude today, and instead of going directly over the mountains, he wanted to go around Mount Rose to the north. That's Mount Rose right in front of us. And that would take us right along the edge of the Reno International Class C airspace.
I think we're going to have to circle to pick up some more altitude before we cross the mountains.
And I'm going to cross here on my plan is to go around to Class Charlie, here that little corner, and then just head a little bit further north. You should have Reno exact now, right?
Yeah, but I don't want to use that as an option. If we have a road break, I definitely don't want to land there.
Landing at an international airport should be an option of last resort for a glider pilot. It's going to be very disruptive to their flight operations. You're going to have a lot of passengers mad at you, and you're going to get a call from the FAA. Right now we're flying in the lee of Mount Rose, which means we are flying in sync, and we are barely climbing. And we're getting bounced around quite a bit by the rotors.
Let's get away from the terrain a little bit. It's pretty turbulent.
So we move east away from the ridge and get a little bit smoother air and less sink, and we're able to climb a bit more. Now we're headed back north toward Reno International again, and we've got some more altitude this time.
We're right on the edge of it. Green tow, I'm not comfortable. It's too turbulent here. It's too much of a risk of a rope break. Let's turn right.
31 assertion.
Let's turn right. Let's do a right 180. Right.
As a glider pilot, I tend to defer to the judgment of the tow pilots because they tend to be pretty experienced aviators. But it's also important to keep in mind that it's your tow, and you should be towed where you want to be towed, as long as it is safe to do so. And you should not hesitate to speak up if you feel like something is not going right.
Okay, I think we're good to go direct to Truckee.
By now we've climbed to over 10,000 feet, and I can see on my glide computer that I've got both Carson City and Truckee in glide. So we're high enough now, we're almost at 11,000, and if we were to have a rope break or anything went wrong, I could turn back to Carson City or make it to Truckee. This is the route that we usually take going from Carson City to Truckee. Despite the high density altitude, the Pawnee tow plane was able to climb high enough to take this route, and it all worked out just fine. At this point, I've got Truckee made easily. The computer says I can clear the ridge, but I'm going to stay on tow a little while longer until there's absolutely no doubt that I'm going to make it over the ridge.
Tower information. Lima 0050 wind 230 at 8 knots. Visibility 10 vector miles. Sky clear below 12,000. Temperature 3 dew point -2. Altimeter 3026.
Another video and another land out. I hope I'm keeping you guys entertained. This was one of those days where I knew there was a pretty good chance that I would be landing at Carson City. It was a blue day, and if I didn't get every bit of altitude that SkySight said I could get on the pine nuts, I knew there was no way I would make it back to Truckee. But, you know, I was free on this Saturday. I was in Truckee. I was going to fly whether or not I was going to make it back. So I'm okay with landing out at Carson City once in a while. It's just money, and these summer flying days in Truckee are precious and should not be wasted. I redeemed myself a bit by making a good landing at Truckee after that bouncy landing at Carson City. The very next day at Truckee, I had an awesome flight of over 500 kilometers with great clouds. So subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss that next video.
If you want, you could do air taxi down the Alpha Taxiway to Echo